Everybody, welcome to one more round. I'm excited to be back. If you have been waiting for a while, it's been summer, we've been traveling, but I was really excited because Sonja and I, we had this on the books for about a month now.
That's right.
And we've known each other for a couple years when I was in the marketing world, and you had your agency maybe a couple years at that point in time, and we're doing some different things there. And one was like stay interviews, which I had never heard. And then you've put that into a real, a digital agency that has more services and stuff. But the reason I had reached out to you, I mean, we've stayed in contact, but you do such a great job on LinkedIn and from the psychological side of marketing, because, I mean, you're a PhD, right?
Yep.
From GCU. And I just thought, we'd come in, I want to hear your story, how you got into it, but nerd out a little bit on marketing, and some of you guys might but some of you guys are going to really nerd out with us. So welcome.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
So when we met, I had started Citrine Research and Consulting as a consulting agency because that's what I thought I wanted to do. So my PhD is in industrial and organizational psychology, which is essentially workplace psychology. And when I started it, I got a couple clients and I was doing stay interviews, which if you don't know, it's a little different from exit interviews, which most people know what those are, but stay interviews, you catch employees at their 1-year anniversary or just randomly in the middle of their tenure, and you ask them if they're happy and what they could be doing differently or what the company could be doing differently. So it's a check-in. Instead of waiting for them to quit and then saying, hey, what could we have done better? I think at that point it's just too late.
Right.
So that's what I was doing, and I enjoyed it a lot, but kind of like we were talking about earlier, I wanted more creativity. I wanted to do more fun stuff. And somebody asked me about marketing and how psychology intertwines with it, and I thought, I'll try it out. Yeah. So it was kind of a pivot because I'd never studied marketing or advertising. I didn't know what SEO was or CPC. And I started watching YouTube videos, documentaries, reading research, watching anything and everything, podcasts, listening to those while at the gym lifting weights. I mean, it was obsession.
I'm one of those people too. Yeah. I don't listen to music at the gym. I listen to podcasts. People are like, you're a sociopath. I'm like, no, I just like to learn.
You might be, but because I'd rather listen to music.
Yeah.
but that is a better use of your time. So as I started learning, I started practicing on Citrine Research and Consulting and learned a lot from that. And it was better that I used Citrine as a guinea pig than a client.
Yeah.
And so after I got a lot more comfortable with it, I started taking on a couple clients, and we started doing really good work for them. And then I landed a really big client, so I needed help because I'm not a graphic designer. I didn't really know how to make stuff. I didn't really know how social media worked, and I was very shy. I wasn't really posting on my own social media or even Citrine's. So I hired a marketing contractor who was so incredible, and then we hired a graphic designer. Clients started asking about Google Ads, and I was like, I don't know how those work either.
That was our bread and butter. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And so I hired a Google Ads specialist who was also brilliant, and we started running ad campaigns, and we were getting clicks. I mean, people were getting customers and clients. And I was like, holy crap, we have a company.
Yeah.
We have a marketing agency. This is
awesome.
Great. So from there, I had to learn how to do sales. And like I said, I'm very shy and introverted. So that was the hardest part. Okay. I didn't have a mentor. I never worked in sales. So it's like when your back's against the wall and there's a fire under you, as you know, you don't have a choice. So I started doing cold outreach on LinkedIn, and that was like a get your feet wet kind of thing, but making calls and meeting people at networking type of things. Yeah. It was so scary.
So tell me about that. So what kind of calls were you making? Like, who were you targeting? What was the call like?
Well, it was mostly warm leads. It was through mutual people. So they were saying, hey, call this person. They're interested in your marketing agency. So it wasn't even cold calls. Yeah. And so I'd call them and I'd just say, hey, so-and-so sent me to you. Are you looking for marketing? and I gathered some interest, and so I'd either meet them at their office or we'd Zoom, and from there it just got a little easier. It's still hard. It's still scary.
Yeah.
Because you just have to constantly pivot and try different things on attracting people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, sales is a skill that's learned. I was actually just thinking about this morning. I don't know why it popped in my head, but people talk about the gift of gab, right?
Yeah.
And that is true, but it's a gift. That's a gift of gab. That is not a salesperson. That's just somebody who knows how to talk to people. There's a lot of skills that have to be developed around that, and if they're not developed, you can't sell anything, right? You've got to be able to know your product. You got to be able to define what a need is that you're going to fulfill. You need to be able to then take them through the process of whatever your service is and getting them on board. It's like having a Shelby engine sitting on the floor, but no transmission, no gas tank, no tires, no frame. Like, you got to put the skills around it, right? Mm-hmm. So I always tell people when I'm with them that haven't done sales before, but they believe in the product, it's like, no, I can teach you the soft skills. However, the skills you've already developed are going to pay in dividends. Like, getting to know people, just ask them about themselves. They don't care about you. I promise you,
exactly.
If you ask them about themselves and keep them talking, they will, it was Dale Carnegie always talked about, the most interesting person in the world is the one that just asked me about myself. Right?
Yeah.
So, so you're in there, you're making warm calls, going to networking events. How were the networking events for you?
Fruitless.
Oh, I love hearing that. I mean, it sucks because I've been through it. I understand.
Yeah.
So empathetically, I should say.
I think you have to see for yourself. Mm-hmm. I've definitely made some good connections as far as colleagues go, but I can't say I've ever gotten clients from it. Now, I joined the Scottsdale Chamber of Commerce, and that is a fruitful.
I've heard that's a really good Chamber of Commerce.
It is. I love it. I will stand by that one forever and ever, but it's a lot more serious. Now, when you go to other networking events, it is the younger professionals that don't really have the money or the intention of hiring you or working with you. So with that, I do think it was great exposure therapy. I mean, with my psychology background, I love exposure therapy. I hate it and I love it. It's necessary.
Yeah.
So that was good practice, but definitely not the best use of my time.
Yeah, but I think everybody has to go through that. And I realized real quick, the ones that I ended up getting a lot of business of were all paid. I was part of a group called Trust Egrity, which is like the way my buddy Danny always described it, as like a white collar networking group. And it's pretty much what it was. A lot of attorneys. At the time, I was the youngest person, the dumbest person in that room, which is a good place to be. Yeah. You just got to make sure they don't know you're the dumbest person, so you just don't speak a lot. But I mean, I got almost everybody in there at one point was a client, and some of them were clients for 7-8 years.
That's impressive.
But it was not a cheap, it wasn't something you just go and you go to a happy hour or something. No, you meet once a month. It's not a B&I or anything like that, which I'm not a fan of personally.
Me neither.
But the ones that people have to put skin in the game, you just get a different person that's there for a different reason. A lot of those types of people are there scouting for people like you or myself and looking for a skill set. And they're okay to pay for that skill set, but they want to be in a room where it's not somebody that's just starting out and doesn't have any experience and those types of things. And a lot of times you got to pay to get in those rooms, and it's worth it. It's worth every penny, like Scottsdale Chamber. It's not free, is it?
Nope.
And you pay for it. And I'm sure there's events in addition to being a part of Scottsdale Chambers that you have to pay for and you got to be around.
Yes.
I was part of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
But I didn't get business until I was in the Mesa Chamber, and they called it the Leads Group, which was very funny. It was the
we have a Leads Group too.
And it was fantastic. One of my very good friends this day, Dr. Garst, this is 12 years ago. He became a customer of mine. Until I sold the company, he was a customer, and to this day I still get free chiropractic because he told me he would always give me that.
That's awesome.
But I've watched him go from 1 to 2. He just opened his 3rd location. So yeah, like those are the types of things that people need to understand. They're like us that are trying to get business. Listen, you go to a bunch of happy hours, you can go to a bunch of free things and all that, and it's good experience. Certainly if you're working on your soft skills, just getting to know folks and to talk to them. But if you want to get business from it, find ones that cost a little bit more and, miss out on a couple Starbucks or whatever you got to do in that month to afford it if you don't have the funds.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So psychology, though, is like, that's your degree. Now, what I've loved, and I told you about your LinkedIn, is what you post on there. So like a lot of the psychological things with marketing, and you'll give a lot of case studies and that kind of thing. How did you start to incorporate the psychology portion of what you did? Not necessarily having a marketing background. Like, where did you dig in?
Well, with marketing, I think what's not highlighted often is the psychology component. So I was wondering what can set me apart, because there are a lot of marketing agencies. And with my background, I mean, I don't know a lot of marketers that have a PhD in psychology or studied psychology for 10 years. And so honestly, what fascinates me about marketing campaigns and ads campaigns is the psychology component. How are people getting enticed to purchase your product or your service? And there is so much psychology behind it. It's fascinating, and it's so much fun to see. I mean, I'm a sucker for a good ad.
Yeah.
I've cried watching ad videos. They get me good.
My wife cries at every Google ad.
Really?
Sorry, honey, but yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I'll sit there and like for Mother's Day, I wanted to pick the right ads campaign to highlight as an example of a great Mother's Day ad. And I was sitting with my boyfriend, and I'm like, okay, we have to be honest. Which of these makes us cry the most? And he's not a crier, but I am. And so we must have watched like 5 or 6 videos, and I'm like soaked in tears.
Yeah.
And he's just laughing at me. And I'm like, I don't think I cried hard enough. Let's keep looking.
Wow, that's punishment. But it's good, right? You want those things that invoke emotion, and understanding what about it invoked emotion, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm sure you've read the Influence by Cialdini.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my early books that I read
Same.
in marketing, and it's very, very good. What other books do you like in that world that's kind of helped?
I posted them. I'm terrible. My memory sucks, so I'm not going to be able to recall titles for you, but there was one, and this is probably going to be a snooze fest for some people, but for me, I've always loved law and copyright law. I recently read a book about that and in marketing and advertising, and there's a big thing. People are using copyrighted music on Instagram and Facebook for their business.
Yeah.
And they don't know they could be getting into a lot of trouble and fined pretty good.
Oh,
so that was something I read recently just to protect my clients. And I mean, I was making mistakes. I was posting copyrighted music on Citrine's account just because the music's more relevant and fun.
And you see it all the time. It's not like uncommon. You can go to like some big brands and like, did they get a license for that?
Probably not.
I don't know. and it's true, like even with images and stuff. So we used to use a bunch of different, we did Adobe Images, Getty Images, and I'll never forget this one time we were doing a campaign. So there was a health club chain that we were helping manage and do like media buys and stuff up in Washington. And it was Emerald City Athletic Club, and we had built their website, beautiful website. It was a very, very nice website. But there was one image on there that they're like, we want that for our billboard. I'm like, cool. And we had bought the rights.
Okay.
And, so we do the billboard and all that stuff. And I get a letter in the mail from Getty Images. You owe us, I think it was a little over $2,000 because we were told that you were using this image and something. I'm like, so I didn't know, because I'm like, I purchased the image. I go back and I look through sure enough. Now, I did settle for less than $2,000, because
Good job.
because I'm like, I'm not paying that.
Was it a stipulation you weren't allowed to use it?
So it was supposed to be web only. And it was used,
my
but
gosh.
they provided a resolution that was 300 DPI, and it was a gigantic image, like that could go on a billboard. There's no pixelation. So I'm like, why would you provide that for
odd.
web? It should be 72 DPI.
Yeah.
For a web image. But regardless, they like their money.
Wow,
and,
what a lesson.
Yeah, and there's like entire law firms, what I found, that literally go out and they sue people for those types of things for these companies.
That's what I've heard.
And so to your point, copywriting is extremely important. Somebody's work is somebody's work, and they don't want it used anymore.
I don't think people spend enough time reading about that and learning about the copyright laws
Yeah.
until they get fined.
Right, absolutely. So when a new company comes to you, like what's kind of your intake process? Like how do you get to know them and figure out how you can help them?
So I have a satellite office. I don't prefer anyone coming to me. I'd rather go to my potential client's office
Okay.
and seeing how they work, what their workflow is. And I just like to get to know them, kind of like you and I were talking about earlier, is getting to know them as on a human level and then on a business level, figuring out their goals, where they want to be, if they want to grow, how much, and how they want to get there, and whether or not I can help them with that. So typically we help the small businesses or the boutique businesses because we're a boutique marketing agency right now anyway. The hope is to grow for us too. So yeah, just figuring out how they work, what their budget is especially, and I think from my experience, what I've noticed, at least with the local Arizona companies, they don't have a marketing budget or an advertising budget. And so it's your job to set that for them and figure out what their sweet spot is and then get them leads, but then they always want more. So from there, it's like a fine, delicate balance.
Yep.
It's like a game.
I always used to tell people you should try to have at least 5% of your gross sales is like your marketing budget for the next year. Look back and they're like, well, our margins are this. I'm like, I understand that. But like that's what it's probably going to take to move the needle. I'll tell you one story. So one of the law firms that I had started with that I had mentioned earlier, we're really good friends, but he did fire me once. And then he got me back, but great friends. And he started his company just out of law school, maybe about 2 years. And I mean, he started with a pretty nominal budget for what he was doing, right? He's in the bankruptcy world and stuff.
Yep.
And he went from about $5,000 a month to like, I think he was at about $80,000 a month.
That's incredible.
Became I think to this day, he's the largest filer in Arizona and Washington. But it was like, he was never afraid once he knew it would work to spend the money. But I could give you 5 other clients that even if they knew they worked, they never were willing to continue to turn up the faucet.
Yes.
So kudos to my good friend that did that, because I'm sure you've seen it too. Like they're like, oh, this is great. And you're like, hey, awesome. So our next initiative is going to cost this. Like, well, that's out of what we're doing here. I'm like, I understand, but you said you wanted more sales and revenue in this quarter. Well, we need to do more than what we're doing, right? Do you have those types of challenges with folks?
Absolutely, exactly what you just said. I hit that wall all the time with clients where like, okay, we're ready for more. And then it's like, okay, well, we need more of a budget. Or I know a lot of them will kind of do their own thing. They'll go off and purchase radio ads or billboards. And I'm like, wait, stop, pause, hold on.
Yeah.
So we're not always involved in that budget planning, or it's a lot of very split decisions that they make with their marketing dollars. And so then you have to pivot off of that. Like, okay, well, our budget just was eaten by this billboard that they decided to do without us. And now what do? Now we have to make this amount stretch because that's all they're willing to put forward. But like you said, you have to show them the potential and what their dollars could get them.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to have that exact problem, and it took me a couple years to figure it out. But then what I did was when my onboarding process, and I would sit down with somebody and do a needs analysis. You know, you get their Google Analytics. Okay, here's what you're spending online. Okay, or your billboards, radio. Sometimes, a lot of times they didn't have those things, but if they did, and then I would say, listen, if we're going to go forward in business, I'm going to help you. I promise you I'm going to get you business because I've done it for this, no problem. However, every time that you go out and you meet with a rep for a TV company, a billboard company, a radio company, I need to be in that meeting with you.
I like that.
And they were like, really? Like, yes. I'm not going to say that I'm going to make the decision, but I need to hear what they are pitching you, because I will promise you I can save you money on it. Number one, I can be the agency on record. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means I usually get a 15% cut, and I can put most of that right back into your pocket if you would like to do that. Number two, they're going to see me as someone that's a gatekeeper that you don't have in place. So I would do that, and they loved it. Like anytime they were meeting with, a Gannett or a I mean, there's a bunch of Clear Channel, those types of things. Cox, when they were doing advertising and stuff, I'd be in the rooms, and most of the salespeople just pretended they liked me, but they didn't at all. Because I'd make sure, I'm like, hey, listen, we have 10 other clients. I can see the data. Rick, who worked for me for years, he used to buy all that stuff, and he taught me how that business worked. So you can position yourself like that. That's how I did it. And it made all the other conversations easier because then you were part of the budget. And it made me more indisposable to them, which is why, like, my average client I would keep for over 5 years, and which is tough to do in the marketing world.
Oh yeah.
But like you and I talked about before on camera, there's no regulations in that industry. There's a lot of shysters in that industry.
Yeah.
So half of it is just overcoming what other people did to these people, and then protecting them, being an advocate, doing the right thing, and then like you do become indispensable just through that.
Yeah.
So how did you, obviously we talked about the marketing, but like, tell me a little bit about your background. Like, why did you want to become a PhD in, what was it again?
IO psychology?
Yeah, in psychology. Oh, well, I thought there was something. You said you wanted to go into something before marketing.
Consulting.
There you go, like consulting or whatever. But what made you want to do that? Where are you from?
Well, I came here as a refugee from Bosnia.
Oh, no
So
way.
I moved to Arizona when I was 5 during the war. And I've always lived in the valley. I've lived all over the valley, but I love Arizona. I've never left. I've traveled outside of Arizona, but this is home.
Yeah.
And I started out as a nursing major in community college, and quickly found out that was not for me. And I think I took a bunch of psychology classes, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is my topic. And so I got the bachelor's degree at Arizona State, and then I kept going. I got my master's in psychology at Grand Canyon University, and my sister, who's a radiologist, said, oh, that's it?
Wow.
Just a master's? And I, kind of like you before, I was so miserable in the corporate world, so I said, okay, I'll get my PhD. And there was a program where it was hybrid, so you can go online, and then a large majority of your time in school is at home. So you could work also full-time, and I decided on the workplace psychology program. I never had a passion in it, obviously, because here we are in marketing. Right. But that was when I started learning about that world, and it is pretty fascinating, and there's a big need for IO psychologists. However, during my program, I realized that that position doesn't really exist. It exists in the government, so I'd have to live in states that I do not want to live in, and I had to get like a high security clearance, so it seemed not worth it for me.
Yeah.
So that was when I had started Citrine, and I thought I'll just carve my own path. So my boss then, at the time, I was an executive assistant for an air ambulance company, and my boss said, don't be an idiot, go work for an agency or go work for a consulting agency or a marketing agency or whatever you want to do and get the experience there, or find a mentor. And then I was so smart that I didn't do either one. And so I've had to learn my own way of doing things.
Yeah, no, mentorship is important. But I did the same thing. My story started it was 2008, and there was a gentleman, I won't mention his name, but at the time, he had asked me to be his partner, and at the time it was just very much all marketing. We did print, we did all this stuff. And I was bringing in the people. Like, I was on the sales side, and I brought in every customer. And he was building websites. At the time, this was 2008, right? So it wasn't like everybody had this skill set. And then he decided he didn't want to pay me, and I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, I'm going to go on my own, which he didn't like. And he's like, well, you can't steal my customer. I'm not stealing anybody. I don't need
you brought them all in.
I don't need my customers, whatever. I'll go get my own. It's fine. And then, lo and behold, none of them wanted to stay. I didn't even pitch them. They just like, hey, no, I don't want to work with that guy. But then I was like, ooh, I don't have those skills yet. So I started building websites on my couch and learning graphic design. And I was terrible to begin with. But
Same.
But I figured it out. And then it was later on, though, I did get some mentorship on the business side. I like you, I'm very much did a lot of YouTube. I found a company called Team Treehouse, which is what taught me to code, and I spent probably 1,000 hours on there learning all kinds of web stuff, color theory, everything that you need to know. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to learn enough to know what I'm hiring for. But PPC was that was where I was great. I was really good at it because it worked for me in my personal business that I had selling health products online. And then I had a company hire me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting them results. And I had a very specific way that I learned to do things. I got my AdWords certification, all that stuff. But this is 08, 09, 2010, I think is when I had my full certification. And what I did and what I taught, like Jason, Rick, all the people that came to work for me, this is how you do it. And every time you're on with a Google person, I promise you, they're going to tell you this, 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 and this. It will cost us more money, it'll cost our clients more money, and it will not work. But you're okay to do, and I would always give them a portion of the budget to try whatever they're telling them, and it would never work. So I would say we're not trying to be in position 1. We want to average 2.5. We don't do broad match keyword. We only do exact match today. Eventually, we used to do phrase match, but phrase match started to open up too much. And I said, here's your bidding strategy. Here's how we start. And then we scale up and we look at it over the first month. And it was like, I bulleted out everything. So we could onboard somebody and tell them, I would say, hey, listen, this is going to be 90 days. The first month, we might not even spend your entire budget, which is good for you. You keep that money. But we're going to make sure we're doing it efficiently. You're never going to see yourself in position 1 all the time. That's stupid because you're paying the highest cost for it. You don't need to be there. And you kind of explain these things. So that's where we kind of made hay, but it was just that trial and error. So I didn't have a mentor really until I got one on the business side. And that was my wife's uncle, Shant, and then eventually my partner, Eric. But they taught me the business side, which I didn't really know. I knew how to do marketing now, but I didn't really know the accounting side of things and all the things you have to learn in business, which I'm sure you've started to learn, and that's important. Eric owned all the Pure Fitness out here with his partner Neil. Had sold a bunch of clubs in Washington. We were on the golf course because I worked for him in 2001, but we're on the golf course in I want to say 2016. And he told me he was bored, and I'm like, hey buddy, I got something you can do. Why don't you buy part of my company and keep me from being an idiot? He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. So and then
cool.
6 months later, he was my partner, and he taught me so much about the business side of things. So how's that side of business for you? Like, do you feel good about like the accounting and all that stuff? Because you're the CEO, you're the one doing all this stuff.
No, I never took a business course, so I had no idea. So my boyfriend, he is amazing with finances, and so he has taught me most of the finance and accounting of my business. Otherwise, I was just kind of winging it. I mean, it was pretty bad. And I think we've been doing marketing for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So you can imagine. I mean, I think when he got into the accounting side, it was like a 13-year-old's messy room, if you could imagine, with numbers.
Oh yeah, and invoices that maybe haven't been paid in a little while. And
see, we were good about those.
Documented.
We do have amazing clients that pay us on time. There are some delays sometimes, but there weren't any outstanding invoices. It was just budgeting and where our money's going, that kind of thing. Yeah, when he walked in and saw that, he was like, wow, okay, we've got some changes to make. And I was grateful for it because I never had anyone guide me. It was just trying to figure it out on my own while also trying to learn marketing and advertising and keeping up with the trends and social media. So it's a lot.
It is a lot, and it's you're in a good place though because you're learning all those things. You're going to know how to hire for all these people, and that's what I would tell anybody who's starting a brand new business. The first 2-3 years, learn every part of it.
Absolutely.
Because you'll know how to hire, and then you'll know how to hire people better than you, but you know what the function actually requires. Yeah. And that's important because they can't BS you. You can ask questions that if they answer it a certain way, boom, okay, we have an opportunity to work together. But when you haven't done those things, you don't really know. You're just like guessing on, okay, I like their personality.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and you want to like the people that you're working with, right? So that is important. But the function of what they're doing is more important. So yeah, what you're doing right now, I think is the smart way to do it.
What would you say was your most valuable hire?
My most valuable hire? It was two. Two most valuable hires. Number one was Amelia. So she was my executive assistant. She came in 2017. Yeah, 2017. She was with me until 2022. She was amazing. Like, she was the one that because I was doing everything and I was talking to every customer, like, she came in and it's like, she worked for a law firm before, and said, okay, I'm going to organize your email. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you got 17,000 unopened emails. I'm like, I understand, but, you know, I answer the ones that are relevant. She's like, no. So here's how we're going to work it. With the attorney, I'm going to make an A, a B, a C, and a D folder. And every morning I'm going to go in, I'm going to sort and just shove them in those folders. The A is like, you need to pay attention to this. The B is like, you know, get to it, you know, within a day or two. C is, you know, a little less important, and D isn't important at all. I never even opened C and D, ever, not one time.
Wow.
But it, like, okay. And then she learned, like, what we did for clients and how we presented to clients and putting together presentations. And I could say, hey, Amelia, can you answer, you know, those questions for him? So she was such a great hire and became a really good friend. And then the other hire, I would say, was probably Alicia. You know, so she was our web designer. She was our fourth web designer. I had a kid named Brendan that worked for me, and he was awesome. Very, very smart, but he was 18, and I paid him way too much at 18. And, you know, he was very ungrateful when he left. And then he quickly got grateful, and later, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, I said these things and all that. But Alicia was the best hire that I had in the web side of things. And she just came in, she was a graduate from ASU, she was a referral from Ashley, and she just got to work. And when she didn't know something, she'd be fine with it. But her bedside manner, so to speak, with her clients was tremendous. Like, that I can't coach.
Yeah.
You can try to coach it, but sometimes the designer people, the coder side of people, like, they have these egos, and she didn't. Like, she really didn't. She was so nice and kind, and, you know, sometimes behind the scenes, like, oh my gosh, they were a pain in the butt, you know, that kind of thing. So those are the two best hires that I ever had. But they were all great. I mean, the average tenure with me, people that worked, were 3+ years. I mean, I have a knack for figuring out who the right people are, because I did everything, right? So it's not, I don't take credit for it. It's just, I kind of went through that process, so I knew
what to look for.
Yep. And I know the people I like, you know, and that's a big part. Like, when you're the person making the decisions, like, you want to like that person. You want to make sure they're honest. You want to make sure they're like, okay, if I'm going to spend sometimes 8-9 hours in a day with them, I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, I got to see that person again and hear their problems and all this kind of stuff. Not that you don't want to be empathetic, you know, and hear things out, but so those are kind of the important things. I can't skip over this. You said you're a refugee from Bosnia. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, what do you want to know?
Well, what I want to know is
there's a lot of gruesome sides of it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to talk about anything you don't want to talk about, but you came here at 5, right?
Yeah.
So what was it like being from another country, coming to America? Did you speak English fully? I don't know what Bosnia speaks. Like, tell me a little bit about the experience coming over here, growing up from a foreign country in America. What was that like?
Well, we did not speak any English, and we were sponsored, I think, by the Lutheran organization, the Lutheran Church organization, and the government. And it was right next to Grand Canyon University. They had refugee housing. Those apartments no longer exist, but they stuck a bunch of us Bosnians there. I think there were maybe some Serbians and Croatians, just that whole mix.
Yeah.
And which was really nice, because everyone there spoke the same language, which was either Bosnian, Serbian, or Croatian.
Yeah.
So it's all very similar, just different dialects. And it didn't feel so strange or scary, but I do remember stepping off the plane, and it was so hot here.
Yeah.
I think they flew us in like June or July. They must have in the summer. And I'm like, what is this place?
Right.
Is this Mars?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, especially at 5.
Yeah. And so they set my parents up with a job. My mom did housekeeping. My dad was a janitor, and they took the city bus to work. We started in school, so I started a little early. I think I started first grade when I was 6. And that was when I was in ESL to learn English, and so I made a lot of friends, thankfully. But it was a different transition. I mean, we had donated furniture, and during the war, my dad was drafted, and so it was just me and my mom, and she was pregnant with my sister, and we were eating spinach and mushrooms out of people's gardens because it's all we had, and we had no money. The banks shut down. It was really scary, and we couldn't really reach our extended family, and the ones that we didn't really offer the most help. So when we got here, I remember my parents saying the most exciting part was the fridge. And opening that and seeing bananas. They were such a delicacy in Bosnia, especially during the war, that it was like oh my gosh, we've made it.
Yeah.
And we had so little looking back, but we were so rich in that moment.
Yeah.
So that was the experience. And so from there, just learning the English language. They had at the church English lessons for parents to go and learn, and then I learned through school. My sister did too. And so we tried to speak English in the house so that we could learn better. And my parents still have an accent, but my sister and I have lost ours. So it's been a transition for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. So anything about that experience you feel like drives you?
Yeah, it's the whole being a refugee kid and wanting to make your parents proud because we came here for a reason, and it was that American dream kind of way of looking at life. So I think that's why we did so much schooling was to have a chance to succeed. And my parents have always been entrepreneurial. My sister got more of a how do you say, like a structured type of way of looking at life. So that's when she went into radiology. And my mom owned a pizza shop. My dad, how do I explain it? He does resale.
Okay.
Just on different things. But my mom owning the pizza shop, it was very successful. She just didn't have enough help.
What was the name of it?
I have no idea.
Oh.
She owned it when I was in middle school, and I think it burned down after she sold it.
Well, I'm a lot older than you, and I'll bet you anything I'd been there if it was in the valley.
It was in the hood. It was like Thomas and...
Oh, no. If it was on Thomas, so quick story, I want to get back to that, but I did lead box for all the Valley's Total Fitness when I was 19 years old, which is a long time ago. It was like 23 years ago. So I promise you, I might have been in there, but anyway.
Interesting. I wonder if you did. Okay.
You'll have to text me later and tell me what the name was.
I'll have to ask her. So my sister and I would be in the back assembling pizza boxes, just helping her out. But just seeing her in action and my dad doing the marketing, I mean, I don't know if they still do it, but you know those like the printouts that you put on the doorknobs?
Yeah.
What are those called?
Yeah, they absolutely do. Yeah, they're door hangers.
Yeah. My dad used to do that for my mom, and we'd leave cards at every apartment complex at the front desk, just hoping people would call, and it worked.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
I mean, we were doing zero digital marketing, so I can't imagine how busy she could have been if we did do digital marketing.
Well, how long ago was this?
Yeah, oh gosh.
There was
like
no digital
20 years
marketing.
ago, 25.
There was no digital marketing back then.
That's true.
Mobile websites weren't even around. I mean, the internet was like news, you know. So, yeah, no, but that's how you did it back then. You literally became that staple in the neighborhood you're around. But no, that's great.
Yeah.
So you kind of got that entrepreneurial spirit then a little bit from them. And
Yeah,
obviously,
so I would, like in middle school and high school, it was like Shark Tank. I'd go out into the living room and pitch ideas to my parents, and they'd just say, nope.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. That's a dumb idea. Or, okay, maybe, let's talk about it. And nothing ever took off because it's scary starting your own business, especially when you're like 17, 18.
Oh, yeah.
And living at home. I'm sure it would have been a little easier than being out on your own, but.
You know, business is a jungle. And you get on social media and people can get lost and enamored with entrepreneurial world and all the fruits and all this kind of stuff. That's really not what it is. I mean, I've been self-employed pretty much since, my entire life. So I did have a job until 2008, like in the corporate world, in addition to things I did in business. But I mean, I've had businesses I've done well. I've had businesses I've gone out of business. I've had businesses that lost money, and it's a jungle, and you have to learn. And it's not pretty. A lot of times, it's not pretty. It can be that way, and over time, it gets structured and it gets a little bit easier for a while, but you still have to keep up with things and trends, and you have to make sure that you're evolving with the market, because the market's always going to tell you if you are doing a good job or you're not. So that's one of my biggest challenges when I hear people are like, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur," and I'm like, well, okay, let's sit down and talk. Let's hear what you're doing, and then you hear like what their work ethic is, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I put in like 30 hours this week or 40 hours this week," and like they're just getting it started. I'm like, well, that's cool, but tell me what you did in those 30, 40 hours. I'm like, well, I went out, and you hear, it's like, okay, well, so you really spent 10 hours working. Well, no, just because you're on the clock doesn't mean you're working. Yeah. And, so it's, I don't know, that whole world is kind of my pet peeve, because I know what it takes, and I have a lot of friends that I've seen them grind and really go through some tough times, and many of them came out of it, but many of them didn't. Some of them went bankrupt. And a lot of restaurant owners that just didn't make it. And it's not because they lacked skill or lacked good food or any of that. The market's like, hey, you're not relevant right now during this time. Economic downturns, you can't survive. So it's but it's good that you saw that, and you're right, it's scary. But now you've been in business several years, and you'll do fine. And in 5 years, it'll probably look different. That's business, and that's the cool thing about it.
And I think with entrepreneurship, there's a certain personality, and I think a component of that is stubbornness. From what I've just noticed in people that are successful in business, is they are really stubborn, and I am too, and it's in a good way. It's like you get knocked down and you get back up.
Right.
There's nothing that could scare me back into the corporate world. Right. I'd live in a shoebox if I needed to. Yeah. But I'm going to keep trying to get clients, and that's it. That's final.
That is very true. Because that's all I dealt with, and I dealt with a lot of attorneys that were in business for themselves, and they're really stubborn. But that is a commonality. What I've seen from the older folks that have been mentors of mine, like my wife's Uncle Sean, he's Armenian. He came over here from Egypt at like 14 years old by himself. His parents shipped him off because at that time there were wars going on, there was genocide going on, and he owned casinos, urgent cares, all kinds of different things. And what I found about him and some of the things he taught me is he's a gentle giant. You would never know it. Again, he's Armenian, so he's like 5'3", could fit on a charm bracelet, but he was stubborn, but he always knew when he had to pragmatically look at something and okay, this is not working, and we need to figure something out. Like always being adjustable, always listening to the market. And that was something that he taught me, Eric taught me. It's like you got to be pragmatic sometimes, because I would bang my head against that wall over and over and over when I was a little younger. And now it's like, okay, it's okay if something's not working. Sometimes it's just an adjustment, and sometimes it's time. Like you got to give enough time. Yes. But sometimes the market's telling you this isn't working. You got to, okay, well, what am I going to do different? And that's the balance I would say for entrepreneurs, is like to have that hard-headedness, because you got to be your number one advocate, right?
Nobody's telling you good job.
Nobody's telling you good job. Nobody's going to bat for you. And if you have someone like that, good. If you got a good mentor, if you got a significant other, and I've been blessed with a great wife, been blessed with some great mentors, but like on the day-to-day, when you're out there, it's like you are that guy or the girl, and you have that thing in your mind. It's like, I'm going to do this. So that stubbornness kind of builds up a wall sometimes, but then you got to go to the other side of the shoulder and be like, okay,
pivot.
Let me evaluate. Let me really pragmatically step back. And that can be be hard to do.
Well, I think with my psychology background, it's always like, okay, that's not working. Let's pivot. Let's try this.
Yes.
And then my problem is not giving it enough time because I'm like I want it now, and that's a lot of us are like that
Right.
too. We want that immediate gratification, and I think I pivot a little too much because there's so many different ways to do things.
There are, exactly, and there's no one way to get to an end goal. There's a lot of different ways. One thing that may help you, may not, but it would kind of helped me, and I never necessarily thought about it this way, but I eventually got to a point where I had exactly, when I changed something, I gave it a certain period of time, and I also knew exactly what I was measuring from that period of time to see if I was going to continue it. Sometimes it would be a month, sometimes it would be 90 days, like when I'm working on a new campaign for somebody. And I really wanted to try and test this, like whatever, if it was a specific tactic, if it was a specific ad, because sometimes you can cut it short, you know, a little quick.
Absolutely.
But it's smart to always be looking, you know. Yeah. One of my favorite guys that I listen to on business, I'm going to the Vault in October, is Patrick Bet-David, which is funny because he talked about the banana being like he thought he was rich when he came over here. So he's a Armenian and a Syrian. So he came over here after being a refugee in Germany, same kind of thing. But he always says one shoulder is future looks bright. That's his brand. That he had, you know, future looks bright. The other one is only the paranoid survive. So it's like, but 51% and 49% is kind of how he has it. But yeah, so well, I'm super excited we had this conversation today, and I know you'll continue to have a lot of success, and you'll adjust and do whatever it needs, because that's what business is, right? Constantly evolves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So how can people find you?
They can look us up on Instagram. We're Citrine Research and Consulting, and our website is citrineresearchandconsulting.com. I know it's a mouthful, packs a punch. And if you just Google Citrine Research and Consulting, will pop up all of our socials.
And then LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, Sonja Elcic, SonjaElcic, and then we also have a business page, Citrine Research and Consulting.
Awesome, yeah, and definitely connect with her on LinkedIn, because you do a great job of just putting great things out there. And is it yielded business for you, or because it seems like you get a lot of likes in comparison to most people on it?
It has.
So connect with her there, and I'm going to pick her brain on how I can do a better job, because I don't even do anything on LinkedIn really. So awesome. Well, thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I know you got a lot out of this, and share it with a friend. Share it with a friend that's an entrepreneur, someone that's in marketing. If you have a business, reach out to Sonja and talk to her about how she could help you. But we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next time.